We ready for college?
No, I have my son's in 8th grade, and he brought home his, select the classes for high school thing, and I'm just it's getting really real for him, and I think he's actually pretty nervous about it, which I'm surprised. I wasn't anticipating him being nervous, but he is. I think he's most nervous because he has to take 2 foreign language classes, and for whatever reason, he's just now deciding that, I guess I should learn a foreign language. I don't really know. So he's kind of going back and forth with that. So I'm just surprised how early the struggle starts. So I, as a parent, being in education for 20 plus years, over 504 in special education, I kind of thought I'd be more prepared myself. I feel like I know what happens after in post-secondary, but like all the different tracks and things, I feel like I'm learning all new for that. So just by show of hands, because I want to read the room really well, so I can kind of speak appropriately. Are we all high school students or kind of seniors, juniors? Like, raise your hand if you're high school, if you're students in high school. Okay, raise your hand if you're students in like 7th or 8th grade transitioning into, okay, very good. Kind of almost like half and half, so very good. If you do have questions that you want to write them down and pass them forward, you can do that. I do agree that with confidentiality, we want to be careful just not to say your child's name or use any identifiers for them, just to have that appropriate conversation. So today we're going to talk about college preparedness for students with disabilities. And so when we talk about students with disabilities, this is going to be a student that's all the way from your life skills classroom, even homebound, all the way to your gen ed student that is on a section 504. And so that's our conversation today. I'm going to preface it with, I can kind of be blunt in my conversation sometimes. Like sometimes I don't sugarcoat it to a certain point because I feel like sometimes we need to hear that as parents. We need to understand that what we're doing now for our students while they're at home with us is going to prepare them for when we're not there with them, or when they're out there maybe still having some assistance, but we want them to be prepared. And we would rather them fail right now, which is my belief. I would much rather see my son struggle in high school, try to do a foreign language now, than him to come to me after he's like in year 2 of college and it's all blowing up. And so that's kind of my philosophy as a parent. And so I tend to present on that way. So I don't want to come across as insensitive, but I very much want you to know the facts, so you know what's real, and so you can be ready and get your kids ready. So, okay, go ahead. Thinking ahead, we're talking about some data, so supports and resources, and then accommodations and future goals. So right now, this figure is a little bit old, so I know it's going to be higher than this, but at this point in time, there are 3.7 million of our students who have disabilities that are going out to 2 or 4 year or tech colleges. They're going out into the world, they're graduating high school and moving on. And I just feel that that is a substantial number, because a lot of times when we look at our population for 504 or special education, not that the world tells us that they can't be out there and doing lots of things, but I think it's important to know that it can happen, and it does happen quite frequently. There are so many resources, so many avenues, so many supports for our students that a lot of parents and teachers don't even tap into or know, but they are out there. So, okay, thinking ahead. Okay, so this is the tough part of the conversation. I'm going to take this from a perspective that your student is in special education and not necessarily 504 when we talk about this. At what we have access to in high school versus what we have access to in post-secondary, some of it's pretty shocking. Especially if you have a student that's going to be in those classrooms that are fully centralized programs, like a behavior classroom or a life skills classroom, or just a transition classroom. And the reason for that is because the moment they graduate, that's no longer available to them. Once you graduate, special education ends. There's nothing there. It's a void. What you do pick up though is 504 and ADA. Okay, so that's a totally separate thought process. So you have special education, which is covered by FAPE. It's fully funded by the federal government. It's for students in early childhood through 12th grade. There's also transition, which you have transitioned up until age 22.
Yes.
Is that right? Thank you. Some districts are a little different. Age 22. Okay, so you still have all that. That's all special education. But what happens is once you graduate, you're now left with nothing. And so you're going, what do I do? How does my student get support? Then you fall under Section 504 or ADA, which is a civil rights law. Okay, so now you're going into a whole other spectrum of law and legal framework. Special education is one legal framework, now we're in another legal framework. It is funded differently, and I'm going to be very honest with you, it is very political. Because it matters who is in your legislature, it matters who the governor is, it matters who the president is how the civil rights laws work. Because they can make decisions that are rooted in political lobbying, all kinds of things are over here. Like right now, Section 504 and ADA and Title IX, they're all kind of grouped together, and there's a lot going on in the legislature, federally and locally, to get some decisions made, but depending on the election in November, those things may never happen. And so it's just knowing that as a parent, you might want to become more aware or be aware of what's going on at that election level, if that makes sense. That way you can make sure that you are fighting for your kids and you are doing the things to help keep the law active and all those things. But that is where your student will fall, okay? They'll fall under that Civil Rights Act or the Americans with Disabilities Amendment, that's ADA. Those are things such as, and I'm simplifying this to keep it simple, like that the doorways can fit a wheelchair, that's ADA. That you have an elevator in every building, that you have a walking pathway in every building, that's all ADA. But what is also now Section 504 and ADA when you're in the workplace is the fact that you may have a child that has trouble processing something. So maybe they have autism. And so they need things scaffolded or they need like a visual schedule for their day. And so that's something that is on the employer to ensure that that employer provides that now adult, I may say student, but I mean adult, with their visual schedule for the day, okay? Maybe they're gonna work at a company that does packing or does for packing your boxes like in a warehouse or something. So their job is to take this box, put the box together, put things inside the box, pack it, have it prepared for shipment. They may need to have a checklist of everything that goes in the box. They may need to have a step-by-step, this is what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3, to pack the box. Okay, they may need visuals of how that should look. Here's how it would look in step 1, here's how it would look in step 2. That's all under 504 and ADA. And that is the responsibility of the employer upon hiring that now adult. So that's what we're talking about when I say 504 or ADA in the workplace. Okay? Yes, ma'am.
Is there a time frame in which the child, then adult, would have to disclose disability or that they have a 504?
So the thing is,
some of those might be invisible.
Could be invisible. So when it comes to 504 or ADA, that's up to you. Like that's up to the child or the parent or the family. Personally, I would want to disclose it because what can happen in the workplace or in college, in education, so I know we're kind of skipping ahead just talking about things. If you don't disclose it and something happens and you get fired or you fail a class, sorry, well I didn't know about your disability. You didn't tell me. And so that's when that can kind of become a tough situation. I would always encourage my child to be fully aware of their capabilities and their limitations or their barriers and be able to speak to them, because what's going to happen is once they go to whatever post-secondary looks like for them, whether it is in the workplace, 2-year, 4-year, or tech school, you can't go and help them. I mean, you can't go and say, hi, this is my son, he would like to have a job here, here's all the things. Hi, this is my daughter, she would like to go to school here, here's all the things. they have to take the responsibility and say, hi, I'm so-and-so. I did have special education for the last, 18 years of my life. Here's my disability. Here are my accommodations. This is key. Here is why I need them to be able to be successful in whatever I'm doing. So they have to be able to speak to, hi, I'm so-and-so. Yes, I have autism. Now, I'm standing up here and just saying it. They will be in like an advisory meeting with someone at a college that is a trained professional, trained counselor. They will walk through this with. It's not like they're just walking in and just talking to some random person they've never talked to. I mean, it's a safe space. It's a safe space. So, but they'll have to be able to speak to why they would need an accommodation or need support and how it's going to help them. Because a college is not gonna just say, okay, sure, great, we'll give that accommodation. That's not what they're gonna say, unfortunately. What they're going to probably say is, that's great, we're so glad you're here. I can see why these accommodations and supports will help you. Unfortunately, we are a volunteer organization, which most are, so if you're needing that accommodation, I'm gonna need you to help to find someone that could do that for you. Meaning, if you need oral administration on an exam, or you need a transcriber for a writing assignment, they may give your student child a list of people to contact to see if they'll be available as your child needs to do that accommodation for them. Does that make sense? There are certain, and you can move the slide forward. I tend to talk off the slides. I just have them in the background. I'm like, here you go. But these are other ways, so it's different from high school to post-secondary. So what can happen when you're looking at your colleges, when you're looking at your career tracks, when you're looking at your jobs, you as the parent now become fully aware of what are the limitations at those colleges, universities, tech schools, and career pathways. Because some colleges, some companies are amazing at working with students with disabilities. Like it's gonna be fantastic and wonderful. But there are others that they don't have supports. It's not, Section 504 and ADA is not funded. It's a civil rights law. It's not like special education. Special education, there's money there. Okay, so that's why you have the services on your campuses. That's why we can hire people to come in and provide those services. 504 ADA, Title IX, it's not funded. So a lot of it is voluntary or federal grants that companies get, that colleges get, that tech schools get, so that they then can support your students. So that's why it also looks very different. So anyway, so it is important to know that when you are looking at the next step, understand what is gonna be offered and available in that setting. And is it gonna match with your child's disability? And if it does, then what do we need to start teaching our children, our students, about their disability so they can speak to it and go and ask for the help when they're out there, okay? Oh wait, go back real quick. I want to make sure. Is there anything here? So there's no services, meaning there's no OT, PT, speech, there's none of that. It's out there, it's just private, okay? It's not that you could never have it, it's just, it's a different process of accessing it. It's not gonna be as readily available as it would be, as it is on a campus. So if your child's going to math, and they're taking a test, and they're supposed to get oral admin on the test, and they just show up assuming there's gonna be an oral admin person there, no. They can't assume that there's just gonna be someone there. They have to make sure, for example, the day before, the week before, hey, just wanna make sure my oral admin person's gonna be here. Or let's say they know that person because they have set that up at the beginning of the year. Hey, text your friend. Hey, are you gonna come? I've got a test tomorrow, so make sure you be there. They would have a relationship with that person. Like they would know that person. And so that might be something where you call your son or daughter and you're like, hey, how did it go? Are your accommodations getting met? And they go, well, I don't know. I took the test, no one showed up, so I just took it. it'll be up to them to go and say, hey, I know we're having a test tomorrow, but I don't have, the oral admin person isn't available until Thursday. Can I take my test Thursday? So it'll be up to them to make sure that that has happened, that accommodation happened. The professor is not going to say, hey, Tom, can you stay after, and we gotta make sure we got your accommodations right, let's check that off. It is no longer the professor's job. It is no longer the teacher's job.
Ms. Garrett, you might get into this in just a minute, but to kind of, so each college has some level of disability or accessibilities department that you have to file your, you know, what accommodations you're needing. And we'll kind of get into this further, but like your child may currently have a long list of accommodations, and like what you said, there are going to be some that they're going to say, no, that, you know, your child only qualifies for A, B, and C, meaning like extra time on an exam, a quiet place to take that exam. And extra time is going to be very structured. Your child might, right now may have, you know, a whole extra week or 2 weeks to do an assignment. That's not a realistic accommodation in college. So we'll kind of get into further, and if you have more questions about that, we can also get with the accessibilities department, you know, through Dallas College. You can meet with Suzanne Roden, and she can really dive deep into, hey, these are what kind of accommodations you can get in school. I've sat in a lot of ARD meetings, and I can tell you that our district as a whole is doing a really great job as they're moving up, making sure that the verbiage that is in the accommodations is aligning with what is allowable at most universities. Okay, so not saying they're going to be getting all of those accommodations, because they aren't. I can tell you right now, you are most likely not getting everything that your child is getting in an IEP, but they are doing a really great job at aligning them so that they are, if they're getting extra 50% extra time on an assignment, that's mirroring what they would get in college. So we can kind of, we'll get into that further, but if you're having like really detailed questions like you were, please, 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 before you leave today, schedule a meeting with Suzanne Roden so she can ask your super detailed questions.
Skip that one. That's
Okay.
what we're gonna talk about. I mean, and she brings up a good point. Okay, every college, university, every setting is different. Some colleges, they got it all. They've got it prepared, and we have resources for you to look up what those colleges are so you can see them. And so, and you'll walk in, they're gonna have the whole process for you. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be wonderful. I can't say what they are out loud because it looks like I'm promoting them, and so we just have a whole list for y'all. But there are gonna be other situations where the college is like, nah, oh, we don't have that available. Try next semester. Maybe next semester we would have that available. Okay. Okay, post-secondary data. Let's go ahead and hit play on this one real quick. You might have to turn it up. You got play?
Hey,
Hey,
what's going on?
I've got good news.
Oh yeah, what?
I just found out that I got a scholarship.
Cool, for what?
Math.
Well, duh. Congratulations.
Thanks. What about you? Where have you applied? Have you heard anything?
You know.
What, no news?
Yeah, well, I don't know.
What?
I mean, I may not go to college.
Why not?
I'm just not a good fit for college, that's all.
Why? You'd be great.
No, you'd be great. I mean, come on, think about it. I'm not that good of a student. And besides, in college there's a lot of reading. I hate to read.
Yeah, well, that doesn't matter. You're smart. You should go.
I don't know. Hey, is this your car?
No, it's my mom. She let me drive it today.
Oh, cool.
I'm serious. You should think about it.
Can I tell you something just between me and you?
Sure.
Now, not a lot of people know this, but I have a learning disability.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's why I'm probably not going to college. I mean, it takes me twice as long to read anything. So I don't know.
You should talk to my brother.
Which one?
James. He's a junior at state.
Oh yeah, I remember James.
He has a learning disability too.
No way.
Yeah, he does.
I didn't know that.
That's because he doesn't like to talk about it either. But he'd talk to you, I bet. He would. You should talk to him. He knows what it's like.
I'm not gonna lie to you. College is hard. I couldn't do it without my accommodations.
But you can't get accommodations, right? Like in high school.
No, not exactly like high school. It's a different process.
Okay, so how does it work? Do they ask about it when you apply?
No, you have to contact the DSO.
What's that?
Oh, Disability Services Office.
Sorry.
That's what they call it here anyway, but every
So it's the DSO, the Disability Services Office. Every unfortunately, they all have a different name for it. But typically, if you call and say, I need to know what the Disability Service Office information is, they'll give it to you. They'll know what you're talking about. But also, no, he said one key thing. He said, you have to contact them. Meaning not you, your student or child, soon to be adult. They'll be 18. So they will have to contact the DSO office at the college. Not saying you couldn't be on the phone or anything like that. I'm just saying, know that that's one of the steps in the process. So, okay, thank you. Sorry.
every campus has someplace like it. It's the office that handles accommodations for students with disabilities, as the name implies.
Okay.
Yeah, they can help you out. There's this whole process you have to go through of describing the disability, providing documentation to prove that you have it, that kind of thing. And you have to provide this stuff, not your parents. And once you have all that, they decide if you're eligible.
Why wouldn't I be?
I don't know. It's a case-by-case basis kind of thing. And whatever accommodations you're getting now aren't necessarily guaranteed in college.
Why not?
Well, I mean, don't worry about it too much, but go talk to them first. You know, you should, like, be able to answer some basic questions. Like, what's your disability?
Well, duh.
Yeah, not a hard one. But how does it affect your learning in class, when you're studying, when you're doing your homework, when you're trying to finish in-class assignments and tests?
Okay, what else?
What kind of accommodations have you had before? What's worked and what hasn't? You should be able to answer any kind of questions like that before you go in and talk to them.
Okay.
You overwhelmed?
Yeah, just a little.
It's really not that bad. But it's not exactly simple either. I mean, it would be great if you could just say, I'm disabled, and they're like, here's everything you need. But it just doesn't work that way, you know? You have to prove that you're eligible, you have to provide current documentation. They're pretty thorough. But it's not impossible.
Okay.
And it's definitely not a reason to blow off college. I mean, I've been here 3 years and I'm doing fine. It's just part of picking the right college for you.
Well, what about here? I mean, you did say it was good for you.
Yeah, I do like it here. And they do a pretty good job. But I'm not a recruiter for state. You really do have to pick the one that's right for you. Just before you say yes, make sure that you investigate their accommodations. You know, check out their website, ask a few questions while you're on campus. You can get a pretty good sense of what they can do that way.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Anytime.
Catch you later.
See ya.
That's pretty much it. I mean, I like how they're presented. They're two cute kids. But that is transitioning to college with a disability. You can just Google that. And at the end of the slide, I have another online resource for you as well, which is a planning guide for you and your child that you can walk through. It's like a huge series. It's like a 5-hour-long series that you can chunk and break apart that helps you guys walk through some things with them. But I mean, that's basically what he said, is you're gonna have to know what your disability is, what accommodations have you had, how have you used them, be able to speak to that. And then also, you know, you, the student, has to contact the college,
It did stop
but also
recording.
do the fit for you.
Well, maybe
Okay, and that, to
it's
me,
right here.
that's,
It's recording.
that's a conversation you have with your student, whether they have a disability or not.
So,
Because I want you, when I say to my son Jack, I want you making a choice of where you wanna go to school based upon what you wanna do. Don't go here because
see,
your
it's
friends
still
are going.
showing all of this.
Don't go here because
It's not showing
it
what
may be
was
whatever.
before.
Have the great football team or
See if you hit here.
all the things. You know,
Exactly.
really think about what's going to fit for you and what your need is, and you know
Just
yourself.
hit the big one.
Okay, and so that I feel like was a really
And then
another
click
key point
through.
that they were talking about. I think we're gonna jump into some data real quick. Okay, so accommodations in high school are not automatic in post-secondary. So again, just because you have it, doesn't mean you're gonna have it, okay? Students have to qualify, okay? The university, even the job share type program will say, hey, yes, we love this, but this isn't reasonable for us. Even though we understand you may need it, that's just not reasonable for us. I'm not saying we're not gonna do these other things, but that one may not be reasonable. Special education ends upon graduation, and not every college offers the same accommodations.
Can I,
Yeah.
question about the special education ends in high school graduation. So we, like, if the kid is 20, not yet 22, and they're wanting him to graduate, so can we say, well, he's not ready to graduate, and we still have 2 years, so can we work on this since, because a lot of it,
Like doing the transition type program?
yes, like, you
Yeah.
know, him being able to speak up, it's like, if the disability is more like speech impairment, then we really have a lot of work to do in the area of him advocating for himself. So if he's not there yet, so we shouldn't graduate him.
Well, that's gonna be case by case, what is best for him, and that's where I would recommend meeting with your folks to have that conversation of, hey, if we want to do like the transition program here at Capel, what would that look like? How would that benefit him? How would it not benefit him? What would be the ultimate goal? You know, all those things, that would be a great conversation to have with them, for sure. Good question, really good question. Okay, I'm a stats person. I love statistics and I love the numbers because the numbers don't lie, they're pretty factual. 65% of students who ever had a reported disability in earlier years responded that the disability was not present in college. That's really eye-opening. Which tells me that maybe we as parents aren't communicating, or us as case managers or staff members we're not involving our children in their process. Okay, I have my son, he has dyslexia. It is not a debilitating disability, but I will say that he still is very much involved in his art meetings, and he's in 4th grade. He knows right where he's at. He knows what's going on, he knows all the things, and even my daughter who was in speech, same way. She's now going to 7th grade, but she was in every single one of her art meetings in elementary school. And so I think that is also key. I think you even said, you know, how am I gonna know the accommodation's happening? Well, the first step is that our kids are educated about where they're at. And there are parents and families who have children who have autism, who have intellectual disability, who have other OHI type things. And these kids, they have no idea. Like, their parents never have explained anything to them. And so they get out there in the world, and you would be surprised, 65% of our students don't report that they have a disability. So that was just an alarming thing for me. Among students who responded that they did have a disability while attending college, only 37% informed their college. Maybe that's because they didn't know any better, I don't know. But, you know, or maybe they just wanted to try without, I'm really not sure, but again, just a really interesting statistic. Okay, I am not promoting a 4-year college over a 2-year college. I'm not promoting a 2-year college over a 4-year college. Again, these are just numbers and just interesting data points. At both a 4 and 2-year college, about 13% of students inform their college of their current disability. Students at, the second one is actually the bullet point I'm wanting to look at. Students at a 4-year college reported receiving accommodations or services at a rate of 85% versus a 2-year college at 57%. I'm not saying to go with 4-year college. My guess on this is that the 4-year universities are gonna have more funding, more staff, more availability, more access to courses, all the things. Cause they're typically gonna be your larger state schools, which are gonna have, they're bigger. I mean, they just are. They're bigger than a 2-year college. So, not saying they're any better or worse. Let's see, 44% of, so then we talk about, I think we're getting into, okay. So 44% of students who report disabilities at a 2-year college took remedial courses versus 21% at a 4-year college. So this tells me like the remedial courses may be more readily available or even more available at a 2-year college than a 4-year college. Meaning if your student fails, he fails. There's not a remedial course. to kind of help pick that back up. Whereas to your college, you may. So again, that's something else to look at when you're looking at different colleges and universities. Students who reported disability were more likely to use academic services compared to their peers. 61% of students who reported disability received help versus 51% of students who did not. So 61% of those who are reporting out that they have a disability and asking for help are getting it, which that's a good number. I mean, it's not 100%, but I don't think anyone can do anything at 100%. I know I can't, so. Okay. Okay, these are two things for you that would be great for you to do with your students. They're written out on your packet, so you can just Google these. The Pacer Center, if you've not been on their website, go to their website. They are a plethora of data, research, information, and what they have done is they have a accommodation rubric self-check. So as you're transitioning to post-secondary, it is all about accommodations now. No goal, you don't gotta worry about a class, you don't gotta worry about service minutes, you don't have to worry about goals, focus on the accommodations. And what you wanna do, this is actually a long, long list of accommodations, like 100+ accommodations. This right here is a rubric where you can sit with your child or student, get out their IEP of accommodations, and say, which ones are you using? Tell me about that. How does that look for you in the classroom? Okay, now let's think about what that would look like in a 2-year college or a 4-year college. For example, if you have a student that has a hard time with transitioning, and so they have someone walking them to and from class, or even coming in to check on them during class, to be like, did you take your homework out of your backpack? You forgot, okay, let me get that for you, and they're doing that. How is that accommodation gonna translate to the university level? What would that look like? Not saying it couldn't happen, you could hire someone to do that, that would be okay, but the college or university may not have someone to help make that happen. So those are the conversations I would wanna be having with my student right now, especially if my student's like freshman, sophomore, because I would start saying, okay, we need to start backing off your accommodations your junior, senior year. You're gonna have to become more independent because they're gonna be an adult. And again, I'd much rather them do that now than call me in college or something to happen, you know, when you're already out there. And so that would be my thought, is I would sit down, look at what accommodations they have, how do they see it translating? How do they see it manifesting in the classroom? Or are they even really using it? You know, do they need it? So this is just a really good guide to help you with that. Thoughts, questions, comments? Okay. Supports and resources. Okay, I'm gonna step back here. You can take a screenshot of this, or you can, well actually, yeah, you have it on your paper. Take a few minutes. There's two of these, okay? One's a parent, and the other is a student. They're different colors. Student, parent, okay? The student resources, these are ones I would be very intentional about my time with my child. And I'm gonna show you some slides here that you can do this like 5-hour like prep program with them. But I would do that. I would do the accommodation rubric I just showed you, and I would give them these links. I would do this over like the span of 6 to 12 months. I would not do this 3 weeks before graduation. Like I would like plan this out. I'm a very structured person. I'm a planner. I think about things like way too much in advance. Yet I'm still never quite prepared for life, it seems like. But I would really plan it out, and I would probably start with the accommodations first. Then, after you've kind of talked through the accommodations, what's working, and like, hey, let's back that off, like the next 3 weeks, like with your kiddo. Like, let's say there's some accommodation where, I'm trying to think here, like reduced assignments. I'm just being very simple here, very broad. But say, you know what, instead of doing reduced assignments, let's go and let's try the full assignment, see how that's going. Between you and the child, okay? A student can, you wanna walk the line of not denying the service, because you don't want the teacher to go, oh, well, they're denying the service that we keep offering, the accommodation. you can deny something or change something for up to 10 days per TEA. So if you guys want to trial backing off on some of the accommodations, you can, to see how that might work, to find out what they're really needing. Then next, I would introduce these resources at least junior year. And if you haven't and you're a senior year, that's okay. Just spread it out a little bit because it can be overwhelming. But you want them to start looking at these on their own. Like, you can look at them, yes. But I would say, check out these. We're gonna talk at the end of the week. I wanna know what you found or what you thought about the going to college, the high school to-do list. And let's look at that. Are we doing that? Do we need to print off the list? You know, kind of have them start doing some of these research kind of questions for their future, okay? Others are listed. Okay, and then here are the parent ones. So for parent information, navigating life, Texas Project First, college prep. Those are all great ones for you guys to kind of be looking at as well. If you are looking and considering the need to be a guardian of your child, let us know that as well. I'm not sure what resources Capella has, but we have resources at Region 10. We can connect you with people, with companies, with vendors that do all of those things as well. That's like a separate pathway that I'm not really touching on. Yes, go ahead.
So, someone told me like if the adult has a guardianship, he'll not gonna be able to make it in college. No college will accept a child with guardianship. So, we are having supported decision-making agreement and power of attorney.
Yes, correct.
Is that correct?
I'm not gonna say yes or no on that because it's not my specialty, but I have heard both those things and seen it done both ways. So, and we actually have one of my close friends, we partner trained together at Region 10. Her daughter is under their guardianship, and so she actually has a really great first-hand experience that I'd be happy to connect you to. You can just reach out to Region 10. I wanna talk to Jessica. Great, we can talk, I can connect you with them, so.
We also previously did a parent resource meeting specifically on guardianship, and that is posted on our website, or about to be posted on our website. So we have that. We also have those resources to you. So if that is something that you are needing, you can reach out to one of us after this meeting and we can get you connected to all the proper people.
And do know that some things, like looking at these things now is good, because there might be things you gotta get on a list for some of this stuff. And that list is like a year or two long. Cause I do, like my friend at work that I work with, her daughter's on like a 6-year waiting list for like some kind of special organizational housing situation. I don't wanna like quote it specifically cause I don't wanna say it wrong. But so being as aware as possible, as early as possible is really good. Okay, where are we at? Okay, we can skip that. Accommodations, where are we at? Keep going. I'm like, okay. The less accommodations now, the easier the transition will be later. So that's another key. We want to do that rubric, do that checklist. I think it's really important that you understand, and you can go to the next one, how it manifests for your child in the classroom. Because as parents, sometimes we tend to hover and maybe over accommodate our kids. Or sometimes we tend to think, oh, they could never do that, so let me make sure they're getting help with this. But you may find out that your kids aren't using some of their accommodations. A, they may not be aware of them, okay? B, they're not using them, they don't need them. And so less is more, as you're moving forward throughout kind of their high school program and track. These are just different accommodations that are very general, and I have seen and heard of being approved in different settings, whether that's a 2-year, 4-year tech or career track. Just different things that you might wanna look at, kind of. I'm not saying you would get these, but these are very normal, typical, like accommodations that you could expect to be provided. Yes?
Can you go back to the?
Oh yeah, go back, sorry.
So, not this one, but the one after. So, some of the accommodations mentioned there are provide timers to help students, provide checklists, allow for breaks. How would this look in college or at a workplace?
Okay. So what would happen, let's say your child goes to the DSO and they say, here's my disability, here are the accommodations I have had, and here's how they help me. Here are the ones I'm asking for. the college will say, great, we can provide timers, we can provide checklists, and we can allow for breaks. Let's just pretend these are all different accommodations that your child is now asking for. And they're gonna say, here are the 3 we can provide. And so then what will happen is, well, the timer, well, yeah, go buy a timer. You, the student, go buy your own timer. Know how to work the timer. Know when to set the timer. Know when to turn off the timer. How to turn off the timer. Like, that's how that would manifest itself.
So if they would not provide a timer, the person to turn it on,
they
turn
might.
it off.
They might provide a timer if they have it. Like, some colleges may have got, a college may have gotten a grant, and in that grant it says you can buy timers for all your students. You can buy whiteboards for all your students. You can buy headsets for all your students. It just depends. But some colleges may say, nope, I don't have the timer. You're welcome to buy your own timer and manage it within the classroom setting. Or you could have a university that says, sure, we're gonna give you the timer, we're gonna train you how to use the timer, and give you a kind of a visual list and checklist of when it's appropriate to use the timer, and that's it. I don't know of a situation where they will have someone in the classroom saying, did you set your timer for your test? Make sure you set your timer. Your timer just went off, let's make sure to turn our timer off. So that is Pathways to Inclusive Higher Education, right here. This is module 1, okay? This is a huge series of videos. It's all online. It is all free and accessible. I'm not promoting University of Northern Colorado. It just happens to be there, so not promoting them. So there you go. Thank you.
So I'm gonna play this for those of you that are like, hey, I gotta get out of here right at 10 o'clock. Ms. Lynch is passing around our feedback form. It's a QR code. If you will scan that and complete it before you leave here today, your feedback is really, really important to us. That's how we drive future meetings. What do you need additional information about? So there's a part in there where it says just additional information. You can type as much as you need there. And I really do, I'm the one that looks at them. I really do look at that feedback. So we're gonna play this. If you do need to run out, feel free. That is totally fine if you'll just do this before, but I know you don't need to run. So if y'all have additional questions, we will still be here to do that, okay? So I'm gonna finish this and then we'll close out our recording of the meeting and then we can ask questions.
A lot of students with disabilities that they can't go to college because they have one, which is not true because we're people too.
I've always wanted to go to college ever since I was in high school. And after we had the interview, I was accepted. That changed my whole life forever.
So I found out teachers and the students, like, they've been really amazing here.
Personalized design classes to fit the students' needs.
The students persevere through challenges. We're really challenging them academically, for a lot of them, much more than they ever have been before.
I feel really independent because I have responsibilities of living on my own.
It's really good to get away from my parents.
Students are hanging out amongst their peers. We have students in everything from Greek life to club sports. That's exactly what inclusion is about.
I was more worried about me being at home by myself. They have the support system if I need it.
College is a good thing to do, to make friends, to be independent. My whole family went to college and they want me to go to college.
But we have several students doing an internship or job placement, so not just a grocery store.
My goal for Casey is for her to live independently and have a job that she loves.
My dream is to work at Google.
I want to go into healthcare.
Teachers joy be around kids.
There isn't a roadblock that I see out there for a student who truly wants to go to college.
Don't be afraid.
And work hard. Work really hard.
Oh yeah.
I love these kids. They're just the best. So take note of that and definitely check out that series for you guys. So that's all.
So I just want to thank you so much, Jessica, for being here today. We so greatly appreciate you, and parents, we value the number of you that have come today to be here and be so involved. We are so grateful for that you're willing to give up your Valentine's Day morning with us. So happy Valentine's